Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Mastering Rod Building Podcast. I'm your host, Bill Faulkner, and I'm delighted to bring you today another Rodfathers episode, and featuring someone I consider a friend and a friend of the podcast. He's been featured a couple of times before, but this time I've finally been able to talk him into doing an episode just about him, and that is the man, the myth, the legend, Captain Todd Vivian of Lamb of Glass and Mudhole and Foundation Outdoors Group fame, and now back to working with Lamb of Glass. So, Todd, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing good, and thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so delighted to have you back. This is a true story. You can keep me honest. It took me a while to get you on the first time. Like you resisted for a while. You weren't interested for a while, but then you were kind enough to come on and do the episode and educate us all about multi-piece rods and various types of ferrules and all that kind of stuff. And it's gotten really great response. And then, of course, on a sadder note, you were one of the folks, because you knew him so well, and spent so much time with him, that was able to kind of be on the episode we did that featured Kurt Baker. And certainly you were very close to him and the renaming of the Mudhole Education Center after him and the dedication and everything. And so it was very cool to have you and, Bob and Buzz on for that. But now you're back just for you, man. It's the Todd Vivian show, literally. This is your 15 minutes, right?
I guess it is.
Which maybe it's the warm up. I hope you get even more credible 15 minutes than 15 minutes with me. But so thanks so much for joining. And so one of the things that I don't know that people know that we kind of want to unpack today is, I'm a huge fan of Fuji, right? And the products they make in Japan and we import and distribute here. I'm a huge fan of a lot of the Japanese brands. Obviously Shimano and Daiwa have touched a lot of people. And, we often look to, even though it's a very small market domestically in Japan, we tend to look, to their bass industry for all this innovation and everything else. And one of the things when I talk to younger people, younger rod builders all the time, that I think they're confused, since so many rods are built in Asia, they just sort of assume that this was the carbon fiber fishing rod was a Japanese invention, and the reality is it is not. It is a distinctly American invention, and not only the first people, but the first several people or companies, entities, however you want to define it, that pioneered carbon fiber rods were here in the States, right? And a disproportionate number of them where you were in Woodland, Washington, and you've been very close to the sort of epicenter of this whole thing, just almost as long as it's been going on. You're not quite that old, but
well, yeah, exactly. And reality, Woodland was kind of where it ended up at, but in the very beginning, it was all up in the Seattle area.
Yeah, it's Seattle, right? And yeah,
it was. You had Lamb of Glass,
right?
You had Fenwick up there,
right?
And then ultimately, Sage and stuff like that. But at the time, it was, and people ask me this all the time: how did these places end up, where they did? And in reality, when you look at the location, short of St. Croix, I'm not sure anyone could tell you. Maybe one of the Schluters.
Yeah, I don't know if the Schluters can tell you how they wound up in Park Falls. I still tell people, if you go up there for as big an operation as they run and how many rods as they make, people have no idea how small a town it is. It's 2,500 people. It's tiny. So it's like, how did they land there? But that's another story for another day.
But every other place I can think of is somewhere around a high-tech area.
Yep.
It's what we used to call a high-tech area, which was all aerospace,
Boeing, and General Dynamics and Grumman and all those people that were up there in Seattle.
Lockheed Martin,
yeah.
Boeing. In the Seattle area, it was all Boeing.
Yeah. Still is, right?
I mean, there's probably some other ones in there now, but that's where you would see these places, because that's where the materials were. It's also where the engineering was.
Right.
And it was the guys who were, you're always kind of fiddling around with something. Oh, I can do something different with this stuff. I can,
right.
And that was kind of how a lot of that stuff started. When you look at so many of these, a lot of them, especially in Southern California.
Yeah.
There's only a few left down there now. But there was a time when there was probably five or six, maybe seven,
Yeah.
that it
Well,
was
see,
it was
because who
kind of a
all
bustling place.
you still got CalStar, you still got Seeker, you have now this entity that's United Composites, but
You have
that's been
UC,
several things, but
but you used to have Graphite
Graphite USA,
GUSA.
right?
You had Sabre. You had,
Saber.
yeah, you had,
Was
uh,
Harnell out there?
huh?
Was Harnell there or who?
I think Harnell, and I think those guys were in like Utah or so. I
Okay,
mean,
but out west somewhere. Yeah,
they
yeah,
were in the West. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's so fascinating. So we've talked a little bit about, and we'll go through this your timeline, and I should tell this story too because it's one of my favorite stories. So back in the day when I was a wet behind the ears brand new rod builder, I'm talking about had been building just a few years. Um, there weren't so many choices. First of all, online commerce wasn't a thing like it is now. And at that time that I knew of, the three places where I could buy components and supplies um, as kind of an amateur who didn't have a business license yet or anything else was Bob McCamey at Custom Tackle Supply, Jim Britt at Angler's Resource, which was in Woodland, and I shared a parking lot with you at Lamb Glass when I was
hmm
there, and Clemens Custom Tackle. I think Scott Greenberg and Merrick Tackle were out there, but I think you had to have that was wholesale only. Maybe I don't know. I never
Well,
did trade
and
with them, but yeah,
they would have still been out on Long Island then.
yeah.
So, and yeah, you're right. And short of that, Cabela's was kind of getting
That's
into
true.
it,
Cabela's had some kit type stuff and was selling
but
some flex coat. Yeah.
the deal was is you couldn't call and talk to anybody about anything there.
Right, right.
So that
Yeah, and unless you walked into one particular Cabela's store where they actually had a rod builder or rod repair guy, you could go in there and there would be
yeah,
nobody who could tell you anything about that stuff. They'd be like,
yeah.
"Sorry, you got to buy it like you see it." But so I go to visit. I was working for a company based out of Lake Oswego outside of Portland at the time, and I'd get out there once or twice a year, and I would rent a car and I'd drive to Woodland. It's my first trip. I'm so excited because I've never been anywhere but Custom Tackle Supply, and Bob took great care of me. But Bob got much more into fly stuff later. I was very into fly stuff at the time, and Jim Britt was way more fly heavy.
Yes, he was.
And had not just single hand fly rod stuff, but this first time I remember talking to people about spay rods, and you know how you guys fish out there, and so I go to visit Angler's workshop, which was great. And I didn't really realize when I pulled into his parking lot that, like, I'm talking about I could throw my shoe and hit Lamaglass, right? I mean, literally right there, share a parking lot. And he's like, "Have you ever seen how rod blank's made?" And I was like, "No, I have no idea." And I didn't. And I walk over there, and he basically interrupts Dick Posey, who was, I don't know, in his office doing something, working, doing something. And he says, "Hey, this young man's here from Tennessee. He wants to have a tour." And he literally walked me in and introduced me to you. And the two of you walked me around and showed me stuff. And I even got to take home a piece of spare caramel colored fiberglass, like a remnant. And I took it and used it as an example to explain to customers how rod blanks were made and all this kind of stuff. And it was the first time that you and I met. And it's been literally 30 or better part of 30 years ago. And it would be almost impossible for me to express and help people understand how much I've learned from you about blanks and how they're made and what goes right with them and what goes wrong with them and the things you got to consider with different. I mean, awful lot of what I know I learned from you, so I'm very, very grateful. But that you'd been in it a while by the time that I met you, right? So wind me back to the beginning because you're still an instructor with Mudhole and have probably taught as many or more people these classes. Well, now you've retired, but you were. You've taught thousands of students through the Mudhole program.
Pushing like, yeah, 12 to 15,000 people.
That's crazy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing, and kids in schools and all this stuff. So I want to talk about that some too. But we've covered a little bit of that before. We've covered a little bit of Lamaglass, but like, take me back to the very beginning. Like, were you a rod builder
I
first, and
was.
then you got okay? So how did you get into building rods in the first place?
It was, really, out of high school, I'd gone into the Navy. I
Right.
wasn't,
Okay.
my parents weren't gonna pay for me to go to college. If I was gonna go to school, I was gonna do it on my own. It was
Okay.
so I went in the Navy out of high school, and when I got out of the Navy, came back, worked for the family company for a couple of years. It wasn't really something I wanted to do, and
Doing what? What did the family company do?
they one of the businesses they owned was a roller skating rink.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I can see you having some mean moves on the
Oh
on the on
man,
the
we did
eights.
we yeah, and it was yeah, it was we had a good time.
There's probably a bunch of young people listening to this podcast that don't even know what a roller skating rink is, but look it up. It's well
There might
before
be, yeah.
inline skates, and it was something that used to be cool. You used to have birthday parties there. You
Oh
used to,
yeah.
yeah, it was a big deal. I had formative moments on roller skates. But anyway, okay, so you're doing that for a while. You decide you don't want to do that.
Well, I wanted to go, I decided I wanted to go to school. I needed to get into school.
Yeah.
If I was going to do anything, get a job that was going to support me, or and a family, I needed to move on. So
And were
I
you already a
started,
hardcore angler at that point?
oh, I've been an angler since I
Yeah.
was
Okay.
as long as if I could, when I could walk down to the river, I started fishing.
Yeah. So were you mostly like a salmon and steelhead guy back then, or growing up
It
in that
was
part of the country?
it was what was closest by would be salmon, steelhead, harvest trout,
Okay.
in the rivers and stuff like that. But when I
Sure.
could get to a lake, I definitely would go, and in those days, we had native trout in most of our lakes and stuff
Yeah.
then as well. So, we'd go and we'd catch trout as well in the lakes, but a
Yep.
lot of panfish, occasionally a largemouth bass. But yeah, I mean, I'd fish anywhere. It didn't make any
Okay.
difference. It was, yeah.
So you already eat up with fishing. You decide to go back to school.
And I started school. I went to school. I attended school for 4 years and 3.5 years, and the day that I finished, the day after, I picked up a newspaper. In those days, that's where you look for jobs at,
Sure, the
in
classifieds.
classifieds
Yeah,
at.
yeah.
Yeah. So I picked up the newspaper, and I looked, and I thought, wow, Lamaglass is hiring. And
And of course, you knew who they were because you were an
I
angler.
did, because they were
Yeah,
only, at the time, they were like 20 miles away.
right.
I'd never been there though.
Yeah,
I knew who they were. I
yeah.
bought, that was the first rod I ever built, was one of their rods. I kind of missed that point. I got into rod building when I first started school.
Okay.
And the reason I did was because I couldn't afford a good rod,
Yeah.
and I wanted a good rod. And you could buy, in those days, you could go into like the sporting goods stores there.
Mm.
And because you had LCI, you had
Mm.
you had Lamaglass, you
Yeah.
had Fenwick,
Right.
you could go, and the sporting goods stores would have these stands of blanks.
Mm.
And then they'd have pegs with carded guide sets from Fuji,
Yeah.
Gouda broad thread,
Yeah.
Flex coat, I mean, just all of the standards that have been around
Right.
forever.
Right. Yeah.
And then handle kit. I think the handle kits were Fuji as well.
Probably. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what I did. I bought a Lamaglass graphite steelhead blank. I think it was an 8-footer at the time, a two
Yeah.
piece.
Yeah.
Um, I think the whole deal cost me. I mean, the blank was like $12.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, retail.
This is crazy.
And it was. I mean, the whole deal probably cost me $30 for everything.
That's crazy.
Took it home. There was no way to get instruction in those days.
Sure.
I knew nobody who built. There was Roger from Flexcoat,
Roger Cedars. Yeah.
Cedars.
Yeah.
He had a little bit on some of the items that he would provide, about at least doing finishing and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
he'd have a little bit on the packaging, right? Yeah,
Yes,
and they had like a pamphlet. It was literally like a trifold pamphlet. It wasn't
it
a
was.
book. It wasn't. It
Yeah,
was yeah.
and other than that, I knew of no one. Not, I mean, Rod. This was before Jim Britt and Anglers Workshop,
Oh,
so that
sure.
wasn't.
Long before. Yeah.
Yeah, Jim was still at LCI.
Okay.
Jim, he was partners with Gary Loomis.
Yeah, and so if people don't know LCI, Loomis Composite Industries, not around anymore, but a precursor or in existence before G. Loomis. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. It was when Don Molk and Gary Loomis had left Lamaglass up in Kent, when
Yep.
Lamaglass was still in Kent.
Oh yeah.
And they came down. Jim Britt joined them there, and they formed LCI.
See, I didn't know Jim was at LCI. That's the first that I've heard of that. Okay, interesting. So that's how you started building rods. What did you study in college?
Manufacturing engineering.
Okay, I was gonna say you seem like you have an engineering bent. So you see in the paper that that Lamaglass is hiring. So you answer the ad in the paper, and
We
next
did.
thing you know, you get a job there.
They were. I mean, I was probably way overqualified for what they were looking for,
Yeah.
but it it got my foot in the door. I was excited about it. It was they were, they had good benefits. Everything went, and I knew that I could work my way through it pretty short, and it wasn't probably a year and a half, and I was running both plants, so it was
Yeah, that's the value to being overqualified, right? Like you had some headroom. What was your first job? What did you start as there?
as a pattern cutter.
Okay. So
Yeah,
if y'all don't know what a pattern
everything.
cutter is, now these days we use these laser tables and we nest
Right.
these patterns so we don't. Most of this material is what we call pre-preg or pre-impregnated carbon fiber, and it comes in big rolls, and you roll out a long flat sheet, and then the taper or flag is sort of determined by this taper you cut, and it takes a really good pattern cutter is like priceless and maybe one of the most important people in the blank manufacturing faculty
Well, if it
facility.
starts out wrong, then you can't
It
fix it.
never gets right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's going to be out of spec. It's never going to be right. And so, literally, people like Todd in these days would have been taking like a metal pattern that sort of defines the shape, laying it down flat on the edge of the table, and literally using like a sharp carpet knife, like razor blade, X-Acto knife, and cutting the sheets of carbon fiber, which would subsequently be tacked onto a mandrel, rolled under pressure, wrapped cellophane, baked in the oven. Yeah, I didn't realize that was your first job, but then you were definitely kind of running the plants by the time I met you and
Oh
got
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It
talk to
was.
me. This is fascinating to me. I know things were cheaper back then, right? But like if I go to today's modern factories, and you've probably been to as many or more than I have, but so much computer modeling these days, right? And so much engineering you can do, rendering images and doing design. And like, there's a whole lot of places that they can basically design the whole thing virtually. And it won't be exactly right, but it'll come out close enough that from there, all they got to do is tweak it a little bit and they sort of get. So some of the art and science has been taken out of it. I distinctly remember Dick Posey, who was running Lamaglass at the time, right?
Mhm.
Um, he and man, he was all in like that. He was that place, and that place was him. Like he was Lamaglass. That guy was dedicated, right, through thick and through thin, in flush years and in lean years, like that. He was just such a constant. But one of the things he told me when he introduced me to you, and it sticks in my head, I still remember. He's like, "Look, there's a lot of engineering and science in these blanks, but some of it's just like bacon. There's some just intuitive stuff you got to figure out about
You
how these
do.
materials act together and how you cure them and how you get them straight and how you do all this. And Todd's smart like an engineer, but he can really bake. So back then, you guys were literally doing tests and experiments and sort of completely having to develop new blanks from cutting new patterns to rolling them up at different
You
cure
had to
profiles and like
you had to be able to calculate the tapers and stuff to create actions and powers.
right,
So so that was really, where you'd start. Anytime that you start with a um with especially with a new blank, you're handicapped if you have to use an existing mandrel,
right,
because ideally any new blank um should have its own tooling.
right,
It's if I mean if you're going to do it correctly, every
sure,
model has its own has its
yeah.
own mandrel.
Yeah, and that's not how everybody does it. To be
No,
clear,
it's not.
even to
You'd
this
go
day,
broke.
yeah. What some yeah, and so what some manufacturers will do is say, "Show me the power and action and length and what you're trying to get," and then they sort of go through their inventory of tooling. And the mandrel is this internal tooling that the blank is rolled against. That's an
Mhm.
important, not the only element, but an important element of the design and taper of the blank, right? Um, and they'll try to figure out what they already have that they can use a section of with the right material to sort of get what
Right.
they want. But what you're alluding to is, if you really want to dial it in and get it exactly perfect, you would actually machine new mandrels specifically to that taper for use with that material and that pattern. And yeah,
Anytime that we would come out with a new material and a new series, a whole complete new series, we'd usually do new tooling for it.
yeah,
And
which is the ideal way to do it. Yeah.
yeah,
So were you getting all your blanks? I mean, I'm sorry, all your mandrels like machined up in Seattle, or who was doing that
no,
work for
we
y'all?
get pretty much everybody in the industry in the U.S. got them either out of South Korea
Okay.
or the majority of guys got them from San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah, um, at CDI, I think it was. Um, gosh, let me think about this.
Yeah. It's a
but
specialized kind of machining. It's a difficult
it's a
object to.
centerless grinding
Right.
company
Yeah. Yeah.
that and and that's all these guys do is
Right.
centerless grind mandrels, and they're, so it's ultimately it's a lot like solid glass and solid carbon grinding, but pretty, I mean, it's a little bit harder when you're doing it with steel and stuff like that, and because you have the weight and everything involved in it. But
Right. So how did you, I mean, because obviously you were like, and Dick will tell you this, Dick Posey would have told you this. He did tell me this, and a lot of other people tell you the same thing. You were kind of the principal blank designer for a long time with all the stuff that Lama Glass was doing. How did you get from, obviously you understood the process joining as a pattern cutter, and you obviously had the proper kind of manufacturing engineering background, like that's perfect training for what you're doing, for being able to understand how to make it an efficient process and reduce defects and be consistent, but talk to me how you got into the blank design stuff, right? Was that just out of necessity, or was that your personal interest, or is that just kind of happened
no, I mean,
organically, or?
it was super interesting. I love doing it. It's
Yeah.
that part of it is still one of the things that I really enjoy doing. But it was kind of a two-way street. One of the things was when I first went there, we had a guy that was a Boeing engineer,
Okay.
and he did stuff for Dick,
Okay.
and he wrote some programs, some computer programs, and took our databases of our mandrels and the tapers and everything else,
Hmm.
and he would come reasonably close by inputting data into, as far as the type of blank, the
Right.
the poundage, all of the different type of stuff,
Right.
selecting material. The program did quite a bit, but there was still a lot of human input that was necessary.
Well, and that was
But
what's so fascinating to me about the stuff Dick talked about. Is like, just because you can math it out doesn't mean it's going to cure straight or come off the mandrel straight or
no,
act like you
that's
want
and
to,
that's
right?
that's that's a whole different story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because and then and I've talked to you a little bit about this, but I had the opportunity pretty early on to spend about a year and a half with Al Jackson.
Hmm.
Dick brought Al Jackson in,
Yeah.
and so I had Al Fosha on one side, who was the engineer for Boeing,
The Boeing
and
guy.
Al
Okay.
Jackson on the other side, who was just a
Right.
wild man, you know. And,
And there you were in the middle.
and so I just kind of I suck it up as much as I could. I really did.
Yeah.
You know, I these guys were, um, Al never. I never saw him pick up a piece of paper or do a calculation. Everything came out of his head. He'd tell me something. He'd look at the mandrel. This needs 3.74 inches. That's going to be 5 plies exactly. And I'm just sitting there and I'm going, all right, and I'm taking my calculator. I'm working this. It was
Isn't
this
that
guy was
interesting?
he was phenomenal. He really
Yeah.
was, as far as that stuff goes.
Was he
He
just intuitive, or was he doing all the math, just doing it all in his head?
It was all in his head.
Okay. Wow.
And at the same time, he could calculate the tapers and do the rest of the stuff. I mean,
Hmm.
the guy was good. He was very good. But
He
sometimes,
was also a wild man, as you alluded
oh
to.
God, yeah, yeah.
Though it's interesting, you talked to, unfortunately, Al passed recently. He was until recently working with Gary Loomis again at North Fork Composites and Edge Rods. But
Yeah.
um, I think, and I think this is Vic Cutter told me this, that Al was like, so Vic thinks the world of him, which tells you something, right? Because Vic's known everybody and been around a long time, like he thinks the world of you. And he, I know he thought a lot of Al and a lot of the designs and this kind of lighter, faster, stronger mindset, and the work Al did, as I understand, on the original lightning rods, and then I guess he worked off and on with Gary Loomis. I don't know.
Yeah, he
Uh,
did. He was at Loomis in the
he
very big
he
in
designed the initial point blanks.
he
We
did,
didn't.
and
He
but
did not end up being able to manufacture them, but so his fingerprints are all over.
all
Kind
over
of.
the industry.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
which is interesting. I wish I had known him better. I didn't. I didn't know him, and I had a few interactions with him that were just weird. You know what I mean?
That was Al.
And didn't leave me wanting more. And so I never really sought him. And now I feel bad. I was like, man, I was close to that guy. I could have talked to him at ICAST several times. I could have talked to him at North Fork Composites. I should have made a point of. I wish I could have had him on the podcast, but I didn't realize you sat between those two guys. What two interesting ends of the spectrum for
It
you to
was, and well, and
absorb?
that was probably the best thing that could have happened, though,
Yeah.
because I got it from both sides. You know, the diehard true engineer that, you know, crosses every T and
Oh
dots
yeah.
every I,
Oh
or
yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then Al, who is he was amazing in some of the designs that he did, but if you couldn't get it out of his head,
Good luck.
you weren't going to get anything. So you had to
Yeah.
be. That was the bad part, is you had to be
Yeah.
around him a lot.
Right. For better or for worse. Right. Yeah.
But I
That's
mean, you know, I spent he was there for about a year and a half, and then he
yeah.
kind of went down the road in the golf industry.
Yep. Yep.
And
Making golf shafts. Yeah.
yeah, I did. And you know, and then I didn't hear much from him, or really anything from him, until I think I was already at Mudhole. So he had been gone for 12 plus years, probably,
Okay.
maybe more, maybe even longer. And and I get a call at Mudhole, and he starts querying me. He would always call me and go, "Okay, what's going on with such and such, and what are these guys doing?
Hi,
What
Al.
you
Good to
know?"
hear from you too, buddy.
Yeah, that was it. He's always trying to figure out where everybody was in the industry and what they were
Right.
doing. And
Right. Yeah.
yeah, so you know, he went to Carrot Sticks
Uh-huh.
when he got back into this. He was building stuff for Carrot Sticks. I think he
Yeah.
did some stuff for Lou's. And then he ended up going to China, and he opened a plant of his own there, which is where he
I
designed your
think that's
stuff.
where he designed the point blank, the original
Yeah.
point blanks. Yeah. I think that's exactly right. Yeah.
So, you know, it was and he was over there for a while, and I think Gary rescued him.
Yeah.
You know, he
Carl, I guess, Carl Haber, who one of the guys I purchased Angler's Resource from, was
mhm.
over there once or something, and I only heard very little anecdotally, but it sounds like he might have needed rescued at that time.
He
So
did.
good on Gary for rescuing him.
The last phone call I got from him when he was in China, he was worried that the police were going to get him.
Oh gosh, well,
So he was not.
if I had to choose between Gary Loomis and the police, I'd pick Gary Loomis too. So this is
He did.
he made a good choice. That's a wise
Yeah,
decision, and he did get out of there. So
he did. He ended up in Woodland again.
yeah, yeah, full circle, right?
Yeah.
So you guys, you predated me getting into this. You were there for a long time before I met you in the early '90s or mid '90s, rather mid to late '90s, I guess probably. And then what year? But there were so many things y'all did back at that time. I remember like the I 700 or I 7000
I am
series.
700.
I am 700.
Yeah.
Those are such good blanks.
Mhm.
When you guys brought those out, you know, I remember I was in love with the Perigee blanks. Do you remember?
I do.
Yeah. So at the time, people were a little bit. Lamiglass still has, and some guys who are East Coast guys, if you're not a surf guy on the East Coast, you might fish a lot, know a lot about rods, and have missed Lamiglass, but they are a big deal in the surf still, a big deal in the salmon and steelhead. Really good fly stuff you guys were making at that time, which is kind of what I was interested in at that time. But people were a little bit in and out of focus about whether they were going to offer blanks or not, and whether, you know,
Yeah.
custom builders were something that was a waste of time or a loss of money or something we should invest in, right? And Lamiglass was always really supportive of rod builders in terms of making the full line of blanks available, which also meant when you guys innovated and developed, which you were doing a lot during that time,
Well, yeah,
we got
we were the only company that offered blank only blanks.
right,
We
right,
were we There was a lot of blanks that we offered that we didn't build into rods.
right. Yeah.
But
And
anyone else,
fiberglass, really good fiberglass stuff. Not just, and again, I know carbon fiber is the show, but there's nothing wrong with fiberglass, especially for certain applications. And
oh, it's huge.
fiberglass done really well is
Yeah,
really exceptional. You
yeah,
and I were talking about these little spigot ferruled 4-piece honey colored glass fly blanks that are among the sweetest, like soft tackle and dry fly blanks I've ever had my hands on.
mhm.
not a stitch of carbon in them.
No,
Yeah.
no, there's definitely not.
Yeah, and so you all that stuff about how to make ferrules and how to fit ferrules, both overlap, centerless ground, spigot, like you learned all that on the job at Lamaglass, huh?
The most of that had gone away by the time I got there.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so some of it we had to revive.
Mm.
It was the only thing I can remember that we really still spigoted were some like 18 or 20-foot outrigger blanks that we made.
Okay. Yeah.
And we made those, and we sold a lot of them in New York and New Jersey,
Okay. Yep.
Massachusetts.
Yep.
But for the
Can you
better
imagine
part,
trying to ship one of those today? I mean,
oh
I
my
know they're
gosh.
feral,
Well,
but it still costs you a fortune.
we didn't have fly blanks we didn't have those fiberglass fly blanks. They weren't there from the time I got there. Those are something that we had to bring back and recreate,
Yeah.
so it was uh it was that really what I think we had left in the fiberglass line there was just some mooching and live bait blanks.
Yeah.
Um, some of the old traditional ones that have been around for 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
The 80 MB84 1Es, the
Hmm.
SB 136 3Ms, the 164Ms, the 114 3Fs, all of the stuff that has just everyone knows, and everyone's got their own recipe for cutting them up into different blanks. So,
Right. Right.
it's rarely that someone buys one of those and leaves it whole.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. Yeah. That's fascinating. And they're built with that in mind, right? Rolled with that in mind so people can make what they want.
they are, yeah.
Um, you guys also in your time there, not only did you make so many blanks available, but and people forget this. Right now, I could walk into there's a fly shop less than 5 miles from me here, and it didn't even have to be a fly shop, but I could walk in there and I can pick up almost any rod on the rack, and it's going to be 4 or 5 pieces, and it's going to be pretty well done, right? Like if I had a blindfold on, I couldn't tell you by casting it, feeling how many sections are in this rod or how many pieces.
For
That
sure.
wasn't always the case, right? Like technology, and you guys did a lot of the development around that, and I remember. This was right at the time when travel fly blanks were becoming a thing. And you guys were also the only person I remember that would had some three piece blanks and also had some 4 piece blanks, right? It seemed like most people sort of went one way or the other. But like you had those spigot ferruled fly blanks that were 4 piece,
We had them up to 9 piece.
yeah, yeah. And I still have a little fiberglass one that I
Yeah,
swear the sections are about this long. I think
they're
it's,
9 inches.
yeah, yeah, it's crazy. I still have it. And the problem is, Don Morton had gotten a hold of me at that point, and I sort of built it with the Don Morton thing with too many guides
Ooh,
on it. Yeah, that's not the blank for that, but I still have it as a testament to my over enthusiasm, and that sometimes you need to just go with what works, and it doesn't have to be trendy or fancy or anything else. But they were very cool blanks, and you were right in the middle of all that stuff. Did you have a favorite? I mean, y'all mess with the titanium tubing on the TI 2000s. Was that what that blank was
yeah.
called? Am I remembering that right?
It was a
Like,
TI 2000. Yeah,
yep. And
came out at ICAST in 1999 in Las Vegas.
and precursor to current carbon fiber handles and things. Y'all were in your finished rods. We're building Texalium handles and tubular handles that were more
I'm
than
not
just
sure
a.
that I'm not sure if we ever actually did any of the Texalium ourselves.
Oh, did
We
you
might
not?
have.
Okay.
Maybe we did. I'm not sure in our finished rods, but we made it available for
Yep.
custom
Right.
for most of the stuff that they used on their own rods was woven carbon or was woven graphite
Yeah.
carbon
Yeah.
um, instead of where the Texalium is a glass fiber.
Right. And heavier,
Yeah,
but yeah, but durable. Right. So
it is
yeah.
super durable. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, did you have a favorite child among any of those blanks and series and stuff that you designed, or a favorite material to work with?
I mean, obviously I think it's always easiest to work with that intermediate modulus material
Yeah,
because you still get some of the great properties of sensitivity and high strain rate and stuff like that. But you also it isn't so difficult to work with that your failure rate is so high.
right.
You know, coming right off, off the mandrel and stuff. So
Yeah, and some inherent hoop strength and some of that
all of
stuff.
that,
Yeah.
all of that
Yeah.
stuff that comes with it, and so I mean, I'm sitting here looking at a rack of fly rods above my computer,
Yeah.
and all that's in. I mean, there's natives in there. There's the OG MHXs in there, but there's also the Lama Glass. Um, I think probably the things that I really enjoyed the most were the on top of the fiberglass, because I've got a bunch of those. I've got a
Yeah, yeah.
lot of those. I love fishing them.
Sweet rods.
But the little what did we? I'm trying to remember what their name was for it. It was a because we had the fiberglass composite one, but we also had a graphite, the stream rods, and they were tiny. And but anyway, it was like the 6'6"
Yeah,
two
yeah.
three weight,
Right.
7 foot 3 weight, 7'6", 2 3 4 weight,
Yeah.
7'9", and 8 foot. I don't think we went over 8 foot in them.
Mm.
It was all of the. It was sorry about that. All of the um, stream rods,
Yeah,
just
small water rods. Yeah.
and they were tiny, and they didn't. I think the heaviest one weighed maybe an ounce and a quarter or
Oh,
something.
wow, that's crazy.
But those were a fun series to do, and I loved fishing them. So
Were you guys white labeling rods for anybody else at that
oh
time?
yeah,
Or yeah, okay. So
yeah,
not
we
just
always
Lamaglass, you
that
built a
was a
lot of
huge
stuff.
business. That
Okay.
was a huge business for us,
Yeah.
and it still is a big business for them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
blanks, whether it's private label blanks or private label rods,
Right.
either or. So
So how
it's
long total were you at Lamaglass before you went to Mudhole and
20
Foundation?
years.
20 years.
Yeah.
And then, so you've recently retired. Congratulations. Although I see you just as much as I used to when you were working full time, and you're a full time charter captain in the Salt, Spot Stalker Charters. If you want to go catch some fish, we'll put up contact information for how you can track down Todd. But and we talked about this a little before on one of the other episodes. It's hard to imagine for people now because Mudhole is such like a full thing, right? With a showroom now selling clothing and lifestyle stuff, selling reels, selling lines, selling lures. But like, it didn't start as that. Like, there was a time when Mudhole sold other people's blanks. And then they brought you in, and you were sort of in charge of the blank program. And so everything, Mudhole and Foundation has become a major player in and American Tackle, right? In blanks, it's so much so that it's almost hard to imagine a world where there weren't MHX blanks and Mudhole blanks. But talk to me about that change and making that
Well,
move. You move from the West Coast to Florida, and then you sort of start from scratch, designing all new blank series.
that wasn't really the total intention
Okay.
when I went there. I mean,
Okay.
I was gonna design some blank series and things like that,
Right.
but not to the degree that ended up happening. And what really took
Well,
place
I'm
is
sorry
I
you
went
were so
there.
successful. I'm sorry we kept you so busy because everything was good and it
No,
worked.
I went there in February of 2008,
Okay.
and in August of 2008, Loomis let us know, and we were Loomis's largest blank distributor.
Yeah. I know what you're about to say. I remember it.
And
I'm
they
still
let us
chewing
know
nails.
that
Yeah.
the following year they were gonna stop their blank sales.
Right.
So what that enabled us to do was to pre-do some orders, through them, make sure that we had plenty of inventory in stock, um, to carry us through. And at the same time, I started designing, a series to replace them.
I
And
didn't realize that
I
was
would have
this what
never,
spurred
I
that.
would have
Okay.
never reverse engineered their blanks if it weren't for the fact that they weren't going to offer them anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. That
And
was a
so
that
that
was a
was
bad day
that.
as a custom builder. I had spent a couple of 3 or 4 years getting a bunch of people onto those blanks, and then they
Yeah,
discontinued them. And I created my own problem. People are mad at me that I can't get them. It's like it's not my fault.
exactly.
They cut us off, man.
Yeah. I mean, and Bob had the same problem. It
Oh
cut
yeah,
half of the
it
problem.
was a huge chunk of his business
Yeah.
at that
So,
time.
and then it wasn't 3 or 4 years later, St. Croix did the same thing.
Yep, yep.
So we didn't, by that time, we already had 2 or 3 series of
Mhm.
MHX blanks. So The St. Croix thing, even though we were their largest blank distributor as well,
Yep.
um, it wasn't really a matter. All we did, we had so many blanks by that time. All we did was create a cross-reference sheet to
Yeah.
everything that they sold,
Yeah.
and we'd send it to customers, let them know that the blanks that they'd been buying and what they could,
Yeah.
what they could reference in our line to find,
Yeah.
to match them up.
Yeah. Which was smart. I mean, because that's exactly what people were looking for. I know that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's still on Mudhole's website somewhere. Is
yeah,
that
I think it
cross-reference?
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
They, and there were other, I'm trying to remember. I think that's about the time Shikari went out.
Oh, Shikari went out. Yeah, right about that. Yeah, right about the time I went there.
Yeah, I mean, so it was as a builder when you're trying to sort of build your business and build more rods. It was kind of tough days, tough sledding. Like all of a sudden, I can't get blanks. So, for you to start building them and have Mudhole step in and have a comprehensive offering, it was kind of a necessity for us, right? I mean, we didn't. I think a lot of people wouldn't have been able to keep going building rods if not for that. So, um,
We did a lot of stuff at Mudhole for the couple 3 years previous to my going there. They started also some series of blanks that were their own product that we built for them at Lamaglass. It was all
oh, okay,
private label blanks and
okay,
stuff that we built
yep,
for them.
yep,
And then after I went there, we continued down that road. And I think we ended that about 2012 or so.
okay,
Really, it was um, that the attitude was that we didn't need the U.S. made. It wasn't as big a deal. I wasn't a proponent of that. I would have
yeah,
felt much better continuing with the U.S. made line,
right.
and I think that should have always been at the forefront of the stuff you're offering.
Well,
But
that's come full circle, right? Because since your retirement from Mudhole, there's been a lot of changes that I view as very positive changes at Lamaglass, right? And sort of the Posey family taking back over the business,
mhm.
and sort of restoring it to the sort of excellence and order and reputability that the brand was sort of built on. And you're in a position to help them with their new products and design stuff there now, right? So you're going to get another bite of the apple, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So how did that come to pass? You want to tell that story, or would you
Which
rather
one?
not, or about getting back with Lamaglass?
Um, when I left Lamaglass in 2008, I did work for them on and off, pretty solidly for the first couple of years.
Sure.
I did some design work for him still.
Still
And
okay.
I told Dick Posey when I left that I would do it for him as long as he needed it until he got somebody that he felt comfortable with, in that
Sure.
position and
Sure.
stuff. So I did, and then every once in a while he'd call me, say, "Hey, we're having a problem trying to design something," and so I'd go through and work out a part for him and
Right.
did some different stuff. But um, Dick and I remained really close and stuff all through the years, and I'd see him a couple, 3 times a year, usually at ICAST.
Mm-hmm.
I'd see him at the ICRBE,
Yeah.
and then some of the other shows and things like that. And then if I was up in that area visiting family or something like that, I'd always stop in and see him.
Yeah.
But but when the company didn't get taken over, the company was it's a little difficult to say, but there was
Well, we don't have to. I mean, we don't have
yeah
to go any more into it than you want to.
there
I think
was
it's exciting that they're sort of. Uh, it sounds so hyperbolic to say rising from the ashes, but sort of returning to their past stature and making investments in stuff made in the
yeah.
USA and bringing back what they're really good
And
at.
that is
Yeah.
exactly what's taking place. I
Yeah.
I received a call from John Posey, who was Dick's son,
Right.
and um, like the first of the year, the very first of this year, telling me that he had taken over the company again. He had
Yeah.
taken the company back. He'd been retired for I think almost 10 years. So,
Yeah.
but he had taken the company back over, and he and his wife and his nieces and he was telling me about the processes that they were going through and where they were lacking and all this different stuff. And I told him at the time, I said, just let me know when you need some help with, help with training people, with doing, whatever you need to do. And we'll, I'll work out, trying to, getting out there or helping you with, with doing this stuff. So
Sure.
a lot of the stuff are easy solutions, to problems that go on in manufacturing every day.
Right.
A lot of it is memory of stuff, and I'm surprised, really, to be honest with you, that I remember some of these things that are 35, 40 years old.
Well,
That
thank goodness you do, right? I'm sure John's grateful you do.
but yeah, and so I've been working on some blank designs for them, some new models and blanks for them. Um, Working on some OEM blank designs for, that are through them.
Yeah.
And
Anything you can talk about yet, or are we too early stages to reveal anything?
when's this gonna cut loose?
When do you want it to cut loose?
I'm just I what I can say is that I am working on a series of domestic manufactured blanks for Mudhole. They'll be in the MHX. They'll be MHX domestic line.
Excellent.
Should be available the first of the year, late December, mid to late December. It will be in the new Mudhole catalog when it comes out
Oh,
next
so
month.
soon. That's great.
Yeah,
That's good. That's great news. Well, that's exciting.
that's
I'm
what
gonna
the
be looking
pile.
for
That's what
that.
these blanks are behind me.
Okay. Yeah. Well, hey, listen, I'm telling you, if you're a rod builder and you've only heard the name Lima Glass, or maybe you haven't heard the name Lima Glass that much, if you're sort of only a certain parts of the Eastern Seaboard and not a surf person, you might not have. I mean, I guess that's feasible. It's hard for me to imagine, but it could have happened. Don't be afraid to give them a try. They've been in the game a long time. They've been a serious source of innovation and development for a long time, and certainly in my experience, it's a product you can use with confidence. Which is good, and I root for our American manufacturers, partially self-serving because that's part of who are my customers, but it's also, I don't know, it feels like we should be at the cutting edge of what's going on with blank technology because we invented, I say we like it was me, but
We
people
were.
like you, this country and the people you've worked with were the ones who invented it. And so why shouldn't we be on top? If we can,
Right.
it's just, like I said in the top, it's a distinctly American creation, and I don't think we need to apologize for being the best in the world at it.
No, I totally agree, and I'm super happy that MHX has made the decision to add this series. They
Yeah.
they see the need for it and feel the demand, and to be honest with you, with in the classes and stuff, as um and the workshops that where I saw you at a couple of weeks ago, those kind
Hmm.
of events and things, the people all know, and they have known, since I'm just doing the classes for Mudhole now, and
Right.
some of the stuff, but they know that I've been working with Llama Glass, and I'm kind of shocked. I was expecting it have to be a re-education process, and it's really not. It's
No,
even
that's
some of the I figured it would be the younger people. The younger people really know the product as well too, because
yeah.
it's been handed down to them.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
it's they're a product that typically isn't a throwaway product.
Right. Yeah.
So, it's does get handed down from father to son to grandson,
Yep.
and so the name is still there. I expected to not have issues in the Northeast, obviously, because they had such a good name up there, the
Right.
Northwest for salmon and steelhead. But it's been shocking to me
Yeah.
in the Midwest, in the upper Midwest, down in Texas. It was
Yep.
huge. We've
Yeah.
done two classes in Texas, and I mean everyone in the classes. You're talking 80 some people, knew the product,
Oh
knew
yeah.
they just
Knew
haven't
those,
seen it.
and it was those IM 700 like popping rods, man. Like those things are
Yeah,
legendary down there. Yeah.
yeah.
That that's part of yeah. That's part of the ones that I still have. Right.
Well,
So
I mean, you have to look at. I mean, and I'm not trying to get too much into this, but we built those blanks for Trey Kistler
yeah.
at Kistler Rods.
Right.
I mean, that's what he started his business on.
Right. Yeah.
For years, the people didn't realize it. They didn't
Sure.
know where it was coming from.
Sure. Right.
But there wasn't one of those Texas companies that we didn't build blanks for.
Yeah, and I say this all the time, and I think people think I'm just sort of, full of hot air, but it's like people would be very surprised if they really knew how few places in North America on this continent can roll their own blanks. It's a heck of a lot. It's orders of magnitude less than how many people sell rods that are made here. So you do the math, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, so but that's good. I mean, and that's what makes it so fascinating. And I think that's why some of these episodes where we tell stories and talk about things in the past and the history is so interesting to people because it's in so many ways it's such a small world, right? It's you and this handful of people in these different entities over time working together and doing these projects. You know, the Todd Vivians and the Al Jacksons, the Al Koches and the Dick Posies and the Gary Loomises and I mean, it's there's a very continuous thread sort of through the last 50 years of all this stuff, and it makes me happy to see that it kind of continues and goes on, and it feels a little bit like a full circle moment for you to be back helping out Lamaglass. So it's very cool.
Yeah,
It
no,
puts a
I
smile on
enjoy
my
it,
face.
and it is something that I was happy to do for the family. I was real close with Dick,
Yeah,
and it was, I'm glad to help them, get back on their feet and the whole U.S. It wouldn't have happened if it would have been continuing down the road of bringing in imports.
yeah, yeah.
There was no reason for me to be involved in that. So it
No,
was
yeah, sure, sure. And you have the luxury of getting involved where you want to get, and you don't have to get involved anywhere if you don't. So it's
that's right, and
good for everybody that y'all get to be together again, right? I mean, I think it's good news. I can't wait to see what you do. I'm excited to see these MHX domestic blanks that are coming out. So much has changed in building. Like, as someone who's been in the game for so long, like, what jumps out at you when you look at kind of the modern product offerings and modern blanks and rod manufacturing? So much of it has stayed the same, right? Like, people still wrap guides on with thread and finish it the same. There are parts that have remained incredibly consistent when you look at the changes in material and technology and everything. But what's the biggest changes from where you sit as you look at the way you do this design work today and the blanks we're making now versus when you started?
I mean, I think the bigger challenges and stuff are having to make blanks for specific applications
Yeah.
that really are difficult. And I'm not sure how much you have gotten involved in it, but the forward facing sonar
Oh yeah.
revolution
Is
and
that what
all
it
of
is? A revolution? Is that what it is?
well, I know that these guys are wanting completely different styles of rods.
Yeah.
They want rods that they can reach out there 12 or 15 feet with
Right. Right. It's almost
and
like
lift a
dabbling
bass
with a
straight up.
crappy pole. Right. Yeah.
And I mean, those are some of the challenges.
Yeah.
I luckily have kind of ignored them, but it's
Yeah.
it's I mean, doing a crappie pole is fine. I have no issues with that, but they want to lift a 4 or 5 pound bass straight up
Yeah.
in the air out of it,
Right. Yeah.
out of a brush pile with it, and it that
It can be
there's
done.
some
You may not
challenges
enjoy
there.
doing it.
There's some challenges there, and
Oh yeah, there are.
but as far as everything else, resin systems, that's the one thing that they do continue to really improve
Yeah.
almost annually. I mean, there's new things that are going into resin systems and stuff. Um, um,
And,
Obviously, we don't have any new fibers or anything, but
yeah.
it,
And so how did like let's talk about the resins for a second. So this is really something that's just going to change weight and like strength, hoop strength, nick resistance, break resistance, that kind of thing, or what? We keep iterating on these because they're getting better. How would you define better? Like, what makes a
well, it's
resin
just
of today?
their bonding properties and stuff
Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
You know, a few years ago when they first started coming out with the nano resin.
Uh-huh.
And do you know how those resins work? Your blanks might actually be using them. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I do, but talk us through it for the audience if you don't mind.
Well, it's you've got these nanoparticles that are inserted into the resin system,
Right.
and at a certain point during the cure, and it is these cures in any resin system are you start out at room temperature, you're going to go to a specific temperature, and you're going to hold it for a given time.
Right.
And during those holding times, typically the resin is going to become liquefied.
Right.
And what happens in that nano system is that all these particles lock together. They come together and they lock and they create like another shield.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not like you've always had the resin that just flowed and
Just
permeated.
saturated. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, saturated all the levels, the layers of fiber. and then hardened, and and the pressure would force it to the surface when it was done.
Right.
And that's what you sand it off. You don't sand a blank, you sand the resin off the surface.
Right.
So but with the nano resin, it that was the first thing that I ever saw that was really kind of something that was unique. And I believe that you're still going to continue to see some of those types of things come about
Yeah.
as you have companies that are working for, because they still do the that they're innovated in the aerospace industry.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
parts that are going into space or into aircraft that have to have resistances far beyond what a fishing rod does.
Right. Right. But
So
also could find a home in a fishing rod and make it materially better.
for sure, for
Yeah.
sure it can, as long as it's capable of being cured in the same manner.
Right.
I mean, it's um, the one thing is that there's not too many rod factories that use an autoclave, for instance, to cure their blanks.
Right.
So, and some of the, there are other things out there. There are other materials, but the specifics of the blank manufacturing and a pattern layup situation do not yield those materials good for that process.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that was some of the things that Al Jackson always did. Al was always, I mean, I'm talking like in the early 90s. Al was taking 70 and 80 million modulus, carbon, no scrim, all carbon, and building blanks on it.
Yeah.
And and they were amazing, but you couldn't keep them together.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, you
Right.
it was, and that these materials really were not designed for that type of process. They were
Right.
they were they were really intended to be used in autoclaves
Right.
and different types of processes. So,
Yeah.
um, today I'm still not really, to be honest with you, familiar with any company that's using above a 60 million modulus range.
Yeah.
And that's really pushing it.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I can't wait to see what happens next. It's fascinating to me. And obviously I'm enamored with and sort of fall in love with the tech and the lighter, faster, stronger, and more hoop strength with less material and more durability with less material and all this stuff. But it's also, it does feel like we're almost ripe for and I've had conversations with Bob Pinnica, with others on this. Like it's so interesting that we still sort of it's when it comes to assembling the finished rod, it's really not that different now than it was 150 years ago. Like
No,
everything else is dramatically different, but we're still sort of assembling the same way. I don't know why that fascinates me, and I don't know, I'm not obsessed with it, but it's on my mind all the time, and like it feels like that we continue to push these. As you said, we keep getting these better and better materials, and most of them come from a peripheral space, often aerospace or some other extreme use, where incredible durability, lightweight, fuel economy, thermal, elasticity or stability and incredible extremes is so. Well, we can sort of use that. They're not going to figure out how to wrap a rod a faster, smarter, lower labor way, right? That's going to have to be a distinctly rod manufacturing. We can't steal that from a parallel industry because nobody has a process like that. But
well,
I say
in
steal,
the
borrow.
thousands
Yeah,
in the thousands of people that we have put through the classes at Mudhole, and it is thousands.
right.
And we were in San Antonio this last weekend, and we had a class there.
Yeah.
First class we've had there since before COVID. So
Oh, how was it?
it was great. It
Did you
was
get down to
great.
the Riverwalk?
No, we really didn't. We kind of
Okay.
hung at the hotel where we were at, and
Okay. All right.
it gets to the point where I mean, you get maybe when I was a little younger, it was something that we'd go out and stuff. Anymore, by the time we get done setting up
I
for
bet.
classes,
Yeah, and
doing the
teaching them.
stuff, I'm not really up for
Yeah.
going out and doing the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, I bet
If
you're tired. Yeah.
yeah, we'll go in a day early and do some of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this we didn't get down there, and that was my first trip to San Antonio. The other
Oh,
guys
was
had
it?
all been
Okay.
there before,
Yeah.
but we had an engineer in the class, and
Uh-oh.
he came up to me on Sunday, and him and I were talking, and he says to me, I don't want any BS, any of your BS line that you're going to give me for this. He goes, there's got to be a better way to fasten those guides onto those rods.
Mm.
And he goes, then just wrap in that thread. And I said, I said, I would encourage you to try.
Yep.
Try to find, and maybe you will. I said, but I'm going to ask you this. Do you think that the Chinese that build how many hundreds of millions of rods a year and ship into this
If
country?
they haven't tried.
If it was possible to use something else, do you think that they wouldn't do it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I said, just think about this a little bit. I said, I truly, this is part of becoming a custom rod builder,
Yeah.
is working through some of this stuff.
Right.
I've seen stuff over the years that was really amazing, but right now I can't give it. I don't know of anything. So
No, I
I
don't
said
either.
I have seen guys try fibers.
Mm-hmm.
I said, and it failed. I've seen guys use shrink tubing,
Yep.
and it fails
Yep.
because you don't get your finish through
Yeah.
the stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I said
And
it's
I've seen some recently, and again, I'm not naming any names. There's multiple people doing this, so nobody will be singled out. But even using carbon toe or carbon tubing,
right.
right? But then you get to them, and they're like, "Well, you got to wrap it with thread to get the guide fixed." Then you do this over. It's like, well, then I'm not sure I'm not sure we innovated any. Like it's
There's
cosmetic then, right?
there
Yeah,
is no. It's all cosmetic.
yeah,
There is no innovation in that.
yeah.
You
There's not.
know,
Yeah,
from 10 years ago, there were guys who were using a specific type of product
with no thread. Yeah,
with no thread.
right. Yeah,
And they were gluing the guide feet to the blank and then finishing it with this other product,
right.
and it would hold up.
Yeah,
The problem is that it still continued to cure constantly and eventually would break.
yeah, yeah,
But that was, I mean, I've seen lots of innovations that people have tried, and I give them
yeah.
tons of credit for it.
You bet. But
But yeah, that
still
whole
gotta
process, it
survive the
reminds me
test
of
of
a lot of
time.
failed attempts.
Yeah, 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 definitely. Oh, that's awesome. Well, man, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk about your history with it. I am so excited that you and Lime Glass are working together again. I cannot wait to see what y'all do. If you get in there and find any of those sweet old matte finished spigot ferruled honey fiberglass flat blanks stashed anywhere,
I can't.
I
They
know someone who'd
actually
buy some of them off of you.
they built some for me.
Oh, did they really?
They built the blanks, but they don't know how to spigot ferrule them.
Oh, we can figure
So
that out.
on my next trip up there, I have to train a couple of people how to do the spigot ferrules.
Or grab the blanks and some spigot stock, and I'll do it.
Oh, I know you would. No, they have the blanks there, Bill.
Oh, there we go.
So
Well, hey, why don't you need to schedule that trip right now. This is urgent. Well, I need you to get this one across the finish line, right? How's the fishing in Florida, man? You've been able to get out? Is the weather turned or the wind died down at all?
we're getting a little bit of a break right now, but it has whenever it has been good enough to get out, the fishing's been great.
Well,
So most of my fishing's been inshore.
yeah,
It's been and the fishing's good. It's not as good as what I would like to be doing this year.
yeah, sure.
But I mean, because there are just tons of big bull reds, and there's still a bunch of tarpon left out there
Oh, wow,
that didn't disappear with the mullet run. So
interesting.
yeah,
Well,
it's
a few of those go a long way to making for an interesting morning, right?
yeah. I got a text message from John Posey about 2 hours ago,
Oh, did you?
and he said two things, and he asked, one was a question, then he goes, I found a treasure trove of boxes with fly rods that Dick had, and Dick had put them away.
Oh,
And he says they're IM 700s, two-handers, all in cloth bags and tubes. Some of the old metal tubes, so that would be the LHSs and the other stuff.
dude, that's like
Probably
a time
titaniums.
capsule, man.
Yeah, he goes. He says, not sure how many. He goes, but there's a lot of Lamy fly rods. And I just told him, I said, you need to hang on to those because
Yeah, don't get rid of them. Don't get rid of them.
because if Dick had them,
Then there's
they
something
always
special
looked
about
like
it.
new. No, Dick
Yeah.
Dick would go to the lodge for a week and come back, and his rod would be back in his rods would be in his office, and they'd look just like they did when they came off the showroom. I mean, he would clean them; they'd be
Yep.
immaculate.
Yep. That's fascinating.
Yeah, but yeah,
Well,
he
he knew what it took to make one, right? It's easier to
oh, he
take care
did.
of one than have to make another one.
Yeah,
Oh man.
yeah.
Well, so good to chat with you. Any other advice you'd give rod builders? I mean, you've taught so many. You educate people like yahoos like me all the time. Obviously, you've been a big part of the industry for a long time. Any sort of parting wisdom or or recommendations you give to rod builders? The one that I'm like beating the drum on that this makes me crazy. People want to spend 1,000 hours emailing about guide spacing, and I would say test them, tape them on, go out in the yard and cast it. Test,
I
just try it. You'll learn so much in 30 minutes of doing that. Just do that. Don't.
Well, Bill, it gets to the point, and because it is that it is that it gets to the point where what does start out taking 30 minutes ends up taking 3 or 4 or 5 minutes.
Right.
You know, when you set it up, take it out, you test cast it,
Good to
make a
go.
couple of adjustments, it's over with.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's and we demo this in all of the classes at Mudhole. You
Yeah.
know, and then we've got our specialty classes that we do where everybody actually does a guide spacing on their rod on the
Yep.
first night.
Oh, see, that's awesome.
So, but guide spacing should be the easiest thing that you're doing.
It should be, you'd think, right? And yet we seem to overcomplicate it and make it so
Oh
crazy.
my,
But yeah.
it does. It's
Yeah.
I don't understand it, but it should that and finishing. Those are the two easiest things for me.
Finishing, I get. I remember being very intimidated by finishing. I don't think I had ever mixed a two-part epoxy before I mixed my first coat of
No,
adhesive to glue a reel seat on and a cork grip on, and before I mixed
right.
my first batch of epoxy to put a coat of finish on. So I remember being just like, what's going to happen? What if it goes wrong? You know what I mean? And then actually you do it, and then you do it enough where you learn, like, actually the best way is to just do it, let it do its thing and leave it alone. Like, you don't have to overthink it or we make it way too complicated most of the time, myself included. Yeah.
We do, and it's and I mean, I talked to the other instructors about this and the way that we demo it in the class, and even Mike said to me, Mike Kasiba,
Yeah. Yeah.
I know you know
Another
Mike.
of the instructors and great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said to me in class the other day on Sunday morning, he'd gone up early and taken all the rods out of the dryers,
Ah,
and he says, you know, he says, I just don't get it. I look at the finish jobs on these rods, and every one of these guys does them themselves, and this is their first rod.
right.
He says they look far better than
Yeah,
most
it's
of the
better
stuff.
than 90% of the rods he sees from people who've been building a long
Yes.
time.
He
Yeah.
says, I don't get it. It isn't that hard.
Yeah. Well, we make it hard, right? We overcomplicate it. Yeah.
I guess if anybody really is struggling with it, I've got a video I'll send you and show you exactly how we do ours.
Oh, dude, I would love to post that with this episode. We will. I guarantee you, we're going to get demand for it. So I'll make sure I get that link and we'll post it up because
Okay.
and just people, you got to just trust it. Like, this is someone like I shudder to think how many rods you personally have built over all these years doing prototyping at the factories and everything. It's a lot. It's several. So you can be trusted and considered a credible source.
I mean, believe me, I'm not a person to sit and take a ton of time when I know that there's an easier way to get it done.
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's
And
just, you can't,
most of the time it's better.
right. Right. That's funny. I'm gonna have to ask Mike about that the next time I talk to him because he does wonderful guide train and setup presentations. Really breaks it down and keeps it simple, but gets a really good result. That's fascinating that he's like they've never built a rod before, and this is better than like some of the finish work on contest rods gets turned in.
Well, it's and the ones that people are posting online, and you know, and it's
Yeah.
their 15th rod or whatever the deal is,
Right.
and he says and I agree with him. I don't understand why people struggle with it that much, and
Yeah.
it is because they're trying too hard.
Yep.
And
Doing too much.
that's what
Almost
we tell
certainly.
people.
Yeah.
This, you know, these products are made to level them. They're on their own, and to
Right.
do this stuff, the worst thing you can do is try to force it to do
Right.
something else.
Right. It's gonna physics is gonna do what it does, and chemistry
Yeah,
is gonna do what it does. You can't defeat it. Right. Oh
yeah.
man. Well, great stuff. Thank you so much, Todd, for your time. Such an interesting conversation. And like I said, I'm so excited you're back working with Lamiglass again. I think that's a good day, and I'm glad to know that John's involved. I don't know after 10 years of retirement whether he wants to be or not, but
I
for those of us
well,
who are fans and who are rooting for Lamiglass, I think that's great news.
he's been back at it now for almost a year, so
Yeah.
I think the sleeping in and the long mornings is over with. So
Yeah, I suspect.
I think he's back to he's had 11 months now to
Yeah,
kind of
yeah. The
work
honeymoon's
into
over.
that.
Yeah. Well, there's no room for sleeping late and taking it easy in manufacturing. I'll tell you that.
Boy, there's not for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, oh man. Well, thank you so much, Todd, for joining us. And if you want to learn more, you can obviously check out lamaglass.com. You can still go to mudhole.com, sign up for a rod building class. Great learning resources. And I don't know, y'all put instructors in the room that have something like 130 or 140 years of combined rod building experience. It's just ridiculous. Great, great way to learn how to build a rod. And I literally every time someone comes up and it expresses any interest to me at one of these shows, I walk them over to y'all's booth, or I have cards, and Mo's there, or
Yeah.
Alex is there, somebody's there, and we're always able to um, connect them. And then I get such a nice number of emails and texts and responses afterward, like, hey, I took that class and it was so amazing. I know you guys recently were out in California and took care of my guy Butch Diaz.
Which is a great guy
Oh,
too.
he is such a good guy. All those
Yeah.
guys at 310 Rodworks are awesome. I was just so shocked when I learned that Butch wasn't currently building. And dude, I meant to tell you, I've been following him on social media. I can't remember, that class was maybe a month ago, not very long ago.
Anaheim was, I think it was the 10th of October, so
Yeah,
right at
so
just
so
a little less than a
a
month.
little bit less than a month. I've seen him post like 6 or 7 rods since then. So
I
I'm
know, I've
like,
been
let's
watching
go,
too.
baby. He's building. Yeah, that's great. I love it. But he had nothing but great things to say. And I just
Yeah.
think it's awesome what you guys do. So thank you for
He
that very
felt he
much.
felt pretty comfortable.
Oh, he
Um,
should.
he felt pretty comfortable when he left there. I think he had already placed his orders for multiple rods,
That's awesome.
so he was definitely
Well,
he was excited about it.
those guys are legit, man. They're hardcore, like long range San Diego guys, which is a
Yeah,
very specialized, way to. So he's well positioned to be able to build a bunch of rods. Him and Darren Dohey and Mikey Robbie and all those guys.
right.
So many, salty dudes out there, that they know that San Diego long range thing, like making blanks. It's like in their pores, which is awesome. They're fun guys to fish with, but.
I'll bet they are.
Yeah, we have to get you out there and do that one of these times you're at Lamaglass or something.
I'd love to.
Get you. It's a very unique trip. It's just like not quite like anything else. Very, very cool. Very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Well,
for sure.
man, so good to see you. I know you're busy. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this weather holds for you and you get back out on the water and get after them. Again, it's Spot Stalker Charters with Captain Todd Vivian, and he's batting 100% 5-star reviews with the people I've sent him. So fish with confidence if the damn weather will cooperate. We'll see. I'm glad there's still tarpon hanging around. I'm
Oh
sorry
yeah.
about the wind and current and everything else, but surely it's gonna settle down. It's funny that we've had a relatively mild storm season, and yet we've gotten fewer fishing days than we would normally get. It's like I feel
Well, it's
guilty. I'm almost like I'd rather we gotten a couple of hurricanes and we got a lot more fishing days in. But
well, and
not that I
you
wish
know,
ruin on
and that's
anybody.
kind of how it usually is.
Yeah,
Is you'll get the storm, you'll have the nasty weather a week on either side,
right.
and then it goes back to normal.
Yeah, and
And
stable
we
for a
haven't
while.
had that because of
Nope.
the way the storms have been just railroading up the Atlantic.
Yeah.
It's been nonstop getting that heavy swell and wind off of those storms, and
Yeah.
it just
No direct hits, but no calm either, right?
yeah.
No calm before or after the
Oh,
storm. It's
I agree with you.
frustrating.
It'd be
Yeah,
easier if it just get it over with and be done.
seriously.
Yeah,
Easy to say as someone whose house may not get flattened by that, but yeah, it's frustrating when you can't get out there. But
yeah,
uh,
for sure. You know, they've
awesome.
got the. I talked to the guys about this. We're doing a class in Orange Beach in August. So
Oh, in Orange, not in Mobile, but in Orange Beach.
yeah, yeah. Well, we
Well,
did
that's
that one there
awesome.
2 years ago. So I'll keep you up on that. If you're around, we'll hook up with you and have dinner. We had dinner with
I'll. There's
Aaron
no
last
way
time.
you're coming and going from Orange Beach. So I'm not buying you dinner. You better believe it. That'll be awesome. What are the
Yeah.
dates? Do you know off the top of your head?
Oh, let me look real quick here.
Oh, is it? If it's online, I can look it up.
No, it's not yet. That's the
Okay.
problem. Is it's not online, and
All right. You heard it here first, people. We're about to scoop you on the Orange Beach, Alabama mud hole class for next year.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
heard it here first.
That's a great class though. It
No,
really is.
yeah, I know some guys who want to take it. I know a kid I'm going to send you, Marshall Long. If you're out there listening, you're taking this class, buddy. That's the guy I just brought home. That was Wes, not you. I was having Wes Christie. I was having pick a blank for him, but he's a I don't even think he's in high school yet. He's a kid in Orange Beach and a big CCA kid and a rod builder, and he's into it, man. So we got to get him in that class.
Oh, that won't be a problem. You know what? I don't even have the date on my calendar,
All
so
right. Well, let me know. Let me know as
I
soon as you
will.
know,
I'll
and
send it to you.
and
I'm
we'll
pretty
pub it.
sure I think it's like the 10th or in somewhere in that range of August.
Okay.
Because we were going to come up, we were going to pull the boat up and go and hit Delacroix for
Ooh.
a few days, and then
Go see Boudreaux and all them. Yeah,
yeah, I saw you guys had a good trip.
go, dude. We lit it up. We got 2 days with Captain Patrick Dickinson of Dixie Outfitters LLC, and 1 day offshore with Captain Eddie Berger of Fish Finish Charters. And man, it was just like it was magic all 3 days. Like day one, we get our redfish knocked out, including a bunch of flounder and sheep's head, and they're like, hey, I think we could run out and try for snapper, just out of South Pass. You want to try it? Run out there, catch a limit of snapper. I mean, it was like, where can you even do this? Then we go out offshore and we get 4 good yellowfin tuna really almost immediately. Then decide we're going to go drop for a sword for a little while, get like 100-pound sword. And yeah, it was one of those things where the weather clicked and the fish were just cooperating, and we had such a good time. And I had to leave to make it back to be with my daughter. But the third day, I think they wound up with like 10 flounder, and they were good flatties, man. They were all like 17, 18, 19-inch flounder. It was like, I was
Nice.
cool. I mean, that's it's hard to argue with that stuff.
No,
But yeah.
no, they had a good time.
Oh man, it's a great time. It's a great time. It was so interesting to see. You can fishing. We were fishing with Brooke Oliva and with Hunter McCamey, and Hunter's a sort of still a great fisherman, but sort of a semi-retired former professional bass guy. Fished in college at UCF, like very serious bass guy, very capable bass guy. And Brooke loves all kinds of fishing, but he kind of is an offshore guy if the weather will cooperate and you want to. And you could definitely tell who was in their element, right? Like Hunter was in his element fishing the inshore on those few days, and Brooke was definitely in his element when we were offshore catching yellowfin.
Yeah, he would have been for sure.
Yeah, but we had a good time. It was a great trip. I got to get you got to go on one of these trips with us one of these times. You got to tell me when you're not working or flying to Lamaglass or teaching classes. We'll get you down there. I love going down the road down there. I know you guys fish Delacroix and some of these other areas, and they're awesome too. But man, nothing quite like that Buras down to Venice area. It's just I've never fished anything like it. I'm not sure there's another place like it on earth. It's just the gift that keeps on giving.
It's pretty special, that's for sure.
It's very special. I mean, hell, I could probably be a guide down there. That's how good the fishing is. Like blind watch could be right twice a day down. Broke watch could be right twice a day down there.
Yeah, I think almost anybody, if you could run the boat.
Well, I was gonna say, if you can run the boat and not run it ashore with the way the stuff moves around down there, it's actually in the fog and stuff. Like some of that stuff, it's not for the faint of heart. And those guys are really good. I'm not meaning to make light of it. And they have tough days just like the rest of us do, and that's when they really earn their keep. But it is a remarkable fishery. So, well, man, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it, and thank all of you for listening and tuning in. Please remember to like and subscribe and download wherever you get your podcast content. Until then, take some time, look up the Rodfather, Todd Vivian, and we'll see you on the next episode of Mastering Rod Building.